I will go to our report and we will start it immediately. So today we are going to be talking about some economic news about the Tri-Cities, and particularly city of Glendale, its unemployment rate. And for the next presentation, we'll also be talking about the economic impact of what real estate, organized real estate, GOR has had in city of Glendale. It will pleasantly surprise you of what you have contributed to the economy of the city of Glendale. Next, we are going to be touching on a topic that anecdotally we all know has contributed to the sales throughout the pandemic in not only city of Glendale, but nationwide. Interestingly, this time around, though, we will be having we will be able to quantify this topic and put some numbers on it. So we'll give you some perspective as realtors that is not only interest rates or the low interest rates and or the economy in general or the employment figures that have recovered handsomely that contribute to the extraordinary sales of contributed to the extraordinary sales of especially single family homes and so forth in and during the pandemic. Next, we will be giving you an election update in city of Glendale and add some color on what is going on and what does that mean. And if we project this knowledge forward, what it means for us as realtors and for our community and our city of Glendale. With that, let's start with the unemployment numbers in the city of Glendale. Glendale in 2021, as of April of 2021, the unemployment rate was 9.9%. Today, it is at 4.9%, and that's a reduction. It has handsomely recovered of 50%. I mean, that is extraordinary recovery from the pandemic days. In Pasadena, it used to be 8.8%, April of 2021. Today, it's at 4.2%. So Pasadena has recovered handsomely, lowered the unemployment rate by 48%. Burbank used to be about 10.8%, and today it stands at 6.3%. And Burbank has recovered handsomely as well at 58%. And so the Tri-Cities as a region has dropped almost the unemployment rate by about 50%. Just to give you a perspective, city of Glendale on a daily basis gets anywhere between 75,000 to 100,000 employees that come into the city and then leave the city in the evening. Now, these numbers means that at the time, it was less than that by 50%. And today, we are recovering and we're getting to that point. Next, I'd like to talk about this remote work and try and give you some color on a study that the National Bureau of Economic Research has done on this subject area. Folks, the reason I'm bringing this up to you is so you can develop a different perspective other than lower interest rates, shortage in inventory, and economic recovery that has contributed to the extraordinary sale numbers that we've had nationally. And the reason that I've chosen this organization is because the folks that did the study were, one of them was a member of St. Louis Federal Reserve, and the other one a San Diego professor from UC San Diego with extraordinary reputation for both of them. So let's start. According to this study, in the United States, the entire country experienced approximately 24% increase in single-family sales and prices throughout the pandemic, the 2 years of the pandemic. Half of that sales, this study contributes to remote work. In other words, that is the part that has contributed to 50% of the price increases that we have seen. Now in California, again, this is nationally, right? In the entire United States. In California, it may be more, it may be less. Because of our tech industry, it could be more. The results suggest that the increases in prices were based on fundamentals as opposed to speculative bubble. And they played a greater role than lower interest rate and the stimulus that we have heard so much that has affected and or contributed to the increase of purchases and thereby the increase in values and so forth. That's a huge paradigm shift. If this is true, and if these findings hold true in the future, we have to expect the following: that basically remote work will have a critical path in future for the prices of real estate. In other words, if people do not return to offices, then the contribution of remote work will continue. And if they do, by default, then what will happen is that the prices and so forth will depend and continually follow the remote work pattern. And so it is important to be aware of these repercussions. I will post the link to the study. It's a long study, but I think, for those of you policy wonks and want to know more about this stuff, the link will be in our chat box. So again, according to this study, when in the United States in the past 2 years, out of the 24% price increases in properties and single family homes specifically, half of that is contributed to remote work. People wanting to spread their wings, moving to the suburbs, or even in apartment arena, moving to a larger apartment building and so apartment unit and so forth. Interestingly, the effect has also the effects in rent and apartment dwelling mirrors what this study has found for single family homes. Next, I'd like to talk to you before we get into the election, the results of a poll by Berkeley IGS, and that's one of the most reputable polls in the state of California that I follow, and I would suggest for you all to take the findings very seriously as well. According to this poll, in the state of California, when the pollsters looked at or surveyed about 8,700 people, 5 issues emerged. Number one issue on the minds of the voters is what? Affordable housing. This is not a surprise to us. We've, as realtors, known this. We've advocated for it, and the shortage of housing has contributed to the issues that we have with affordable housing in state of California. Number 2 issue is homelessness. Number 3 issue is crime and public safety. Number 4 is gas prices. And number 5 is climate change. So there were 5 issues basically taking precedence over any other issue in the minds and hearts of Californians. Interestingly now, if we look at affordable housing, homelessness, crime, and climate change, these are the 4 issues of the reason why we voted and we decided to endorse Aaron Najarian, Vrej Agajanian, and Dan Broadman. So I can tell you, we can check the housing, the affordability in City of Glendale, for example, in the past 2 years, with the CDSCA contribution of about 1,400 units, and the council having about 507 units in pipeline for affordable housing. That is more than this council and this city has done in the past 44 years. So that's a check for these 3 gentlemen. Homelessness. In a city of 195,000 residents, our homeless count is at 225 persons. And the reason that it is so low is because we have a continuum of care that bar none by in any other city in the county. And the police department works very, very closely with the folks that provide that continuum of care, such as Essentia and the other shelters that are available in the city of Glendale. Let's talk about crime and public safety. This is also gets a check mark because these three gentlemen, the endorsed candidates by Glendale Association of Realtors, were a big part of the city having a ranking of the sixth safest city size in the entire United States. That's not a joke. And that's something that I'm very, very proud of. Also, climate change, that the belief, at least in two out of the three, is incremental and feasible climate actions that will not affect the working class and so forth. And that is welcome as well. So I wanted to share this part with you just to put in perspective of why we are and your executive team and your board of directors and your LGLR members do and decide on issues and how and why. Now, let's talk about some ballots and what has been returned. The source of this information is PDI. PDI is something that I subscribe to, and it's called Political Data Inc. and provides up to the minute, up to the day, the information on the elections. In the city of Glendale, 114,000 ballots were mailed to the voters of city of Glendale. You probably have received one because the law changed, and now in state of California, every registered voter gets a ballot in the mail. And by the way, you don't have to even pay postage. All you need to do is to make your selection, sign behind the envelope, and drop it back in the mail. And that's how easy it's been made. They have made it for us voters to vote. Now, we knew this was an election year that was all presidential, and therefore the number that will come out to vote would have been less than the 49,000 or 50,000 that voted in 2021. And certainly these numbers point to that. Thus far, from, if you remember, the ballots were mailed on May 9th. Between May 9th and the 25th, which is about 14, 15 days, about 8,000 people, I checked the numbers, it's 8,000, not 7,000 today, have returned their ballots. So thus far, the trajectory shows and validates the fact that the basically the voter turnout will be less than a presidential year. What I'd like to do also to give you some color on basically who's been voting and who's returned the most ballots. On the age basis, if you look at 65 plus, 12% of the ballots that have been returned are from, they constitute about 12% of the entire population, which is about 31,339. And it's 51% of the ballots that have been returned. For the ages of 50, 64, about 6% have returned their ballots, and that's about 22%, 6% of the population that have returned their ballots, and that constitutes 22% of the 8,000 that the county register has its own position, and so on and so forth. The reason I'm showing this to you is because this age group, 35 to 49, and 18 to 34 are most likely to be tenants than homeowners and so forth. And so this doesn't bode well for the tenant population in the city of Glendale. Now, these numbers could always change, but it's an interesting perspective. It's an interesting look at what can and what is happening on real-time basis with returned ballots. Again, 114,000 ballots were mailed, about 8,000 have been returned, and we got about 14 days left, or 13 days left to the election day, which is June 6th. Now, June 7th, I'm sorry. So we have talked about this slide in the past, that the rigorous way we went about selecting and endorsing our candidates. and the reasons why, from being against rent registry, against TOPA, affordable housing, being for affordable housing, opposing rent control, and they're all on record, by the way, in writing that they've done that. This is exactly why we chose them, right? So the candidates that we endorsed, including Aaron Najarian, Dan Broadman, and Virg Agajanian, depend and deserve your support and your family's support. So please make sure that if you've received the ballots, fill it out, send it in. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. And remember that the last day that that ballot has to be postmarked is the election day. And make sure that you share our attitude, our beliefs with your family and with your friends. If each and every one of you can talk to 5 people and encourage them to vote for these 3 candidates, it will go a long ways. I know David has put together a program for our LGLR and our board members to make phone calls to our basically our own our realtors, our voting realtors or registered voter realtors, reach out so they will not forget to be able to go forward with the elections and vote, hopefully vote alongside with Glendale Association of Realtors. Mr. President, that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. You always bring us important information. It's so important that you get out and vote, that you get your family to go out and vote, that you get your friends to go out and vote, because you can make a huge difference, especially in a year when we know that voter numbers are going to be lower. Do we have any questions? We do not. In that case, thank you very much for the information. It's great information.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting us know where we can find that information also. All right, let's go.